My child, before you decide that this season will never change, before you convince yourself that the light is gone forever, before you allow hopelessness to become the loudest voice in your heart, stay with me for a little while, because today I want to tell you something that your pain has made almost impossible to believe. This dark season is not the end of your story. My child, I know how heavy this season has been. I know there are mornings when getting out of bed already feels like a battle. I know there are nights when your body is exhausted, yet your mind refuses to rest. You replay conversations. You question decisions. You wonder if you somehow ruined the future I once planned for you. And sometimes, you are not even sure why you feel so tired. Nothing dramatic happened today, yet your soul feels as though it has been carrying a mountain. My child, I know. I have watched every silent struggle, every forced smile, every moment you answered, "I'm fine," while your heart quietly whispered, "I'm falling apart." You thought no one noticed, but I did, every single time. Please, don't leave yet, because what I want to show you today may completely change the way you understand this dark season. Have you ever walked outside just before sunrise? Not after the sun appears, but before. The world feels strangely quiet. The sky is still dark. The cold seems deeper. The silence feels endless. If someone had never seen a sunrise before, they might honestly believe that darkness would last forever. After all, there is no visible proof that morning is coming. Only darkness, only silence, only waiting. But my child, does the absence of sunlight mean the sun has disappeared? No. It simply means the earth has not yet turned enough to see it. The sun never stopped shining. The perspective simply had not changed yet. Please think about that, because perhaps your heart has been standing in a place where you cannot yet see the light. That does not mean the light has stopped existing. My child, darkness has a way of lying to people. It whispers, "This is forever. You'll never laugh like you used to. You'll never recover. You'll always feel this empty. You'll always carry this pain." It speaks with such confidence that eventually people begin believing it. But darkness has never been qualified to tell you the future. Only I know your future. Only I know how this story ends. Only I know what is waiting beyond the horizon you cannot yet see. My child, one of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that what they feel today must also be what they will feel tomorrow. Pain convinces them that healing is impossible. Fear convinces them that peace is gone forever. Loneliness convinces them they will always be alone. But feelings, no matter how powerful, are not prophets. They are real. They deserve compassion. But they do not have the authority to write your future. I do. Please stay with me, because there is something many people never realize until years later. The darkest chapter of your life often becomes the chapter where you finally discover how close I truly am. Not because I created your suffering, but because suffering has a way of removing distractions. When everything else becomes uncertain, people begin searching for something that cannot be shaken. And my child, that is often when they discover me in ways they never did before. Imagine a shepherd leading his sheep through a deep valley before dawn. The valley is covered in thick mist. The sheep cannot see what lies ahead. They only see shadows, cold stones beneath their feet, dark cliffs surrounding them. If they only trusted their eyes, they would stop walking. But the shepherd keeps moving, not because he ignores the darkness, but because he already knows where the valley ends. My child, sometimes you have been judging your journey through the eyes of the sheep, while I have been leading it with the heart of the shepherd. You see shadows. I see the sunrise waiting beyond them. You see uncertainty. I see the destination. You see the valley. I see the meadow waiting on the other side. That is why I keep asking you, trust me. not because I expect blind faith, but because I can already see what you cannot. My child, as it is written, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Notice something beautiful. The scripture does not say you stop in the valley. It does not say you build your home there. It says you walk through it. The valley was never meant to become your permanent address. It is something you pass through, not something you live inside forever. Please don't miss that. Because many of my children begin decorating valleys they were only meant to travel through. They begin believing, this is who I am now. No joy, no hope, no future. But my child, a season is not an identity. A valley is not a destination. Darkness is not your home. You may be walking through it today, but you do not belong to it. My child, there is another reason this season feels so frightening. Darkness limits your vision. It makes tomorrow feel invisible. You cannot see what is ahead, and because you cannot see it, your mind begins imagining the worst. That is what fear always does. It fills the spaces where certainty has not yet arrived. But my child, faith fills those same spaces with my promises. Fear says, I don't know what tomorrow holds. Faith quietly answers, but I know who is already there. There is a profound difference. One focuses on the darkness, the other trusts the one who walks through it with you. My child, right now, you may feel surrounded by unanswered questions. You may wonder why I allowed this season, why the road became so difficult, why the silence has lasted so long. I understand those questions, and I am not offended by them. But before I answer them, I need you to understand something even more important. Darkness is not always the absence of my presence. Sometimes, it becomes the place where my presence is experienced most deeply. Hold that thought in your heart, because in the next part, I want to show you why some of the strongest faith is not born in moments of victory, but in nights that seem to have no morning. And once you understand that, you will never look at your dark season the same way again. My child, stay with me, because now I want to speak to one of the deepest fears hidden inside your heart. Not the fear of failure, not the fear of tomorrow, but the fear you rarely admit to anyone. The fear that whispers, what if God isn't here anymore? You would never say those words out loud. You still pray, you still read scripture, you still try to believe. But somewhere deep inside, you wonder, if God is with me, why does he feel so far away? My child, if you have ever asked that question, you are not a weak believer. You are a human heart trying to understand a season that cannot be explained by feelings alone. Please, don't leave yet, because what I am about to tell you may lift a burden you have carried for far too long. Have you ever walked through a dense forest at night? The trees block the moonlight. The path disappears beneath your feet. Every sound feels louder. Every shadow seems threatening. You instinctively reach for a flashlight, not because the world suddenly became more dangerous, but because darkness changed what you could see. Now imagine someone walking beside you, a trusted guide. He knows every turn, every rock, every hidden path. There are moments when you cannot even see his face, but he never stopped walking beside you. My child, that is often what this season feels like. You mistake what you cannot see for what is no longer there, but those are not the same thing. There is a difference between my presence and your awareness of my presence. Your awareness may rise and fall. My presence never does. Please think about that. Because many of my children measure my faithfulness by their emotions. When they feel peace, they believe I am close. When they feel anxious, they believe I have left. When they feel joy, they believe I am speaking. When they feel empty, they believe heaven has become silent. But my child, I have never promised that my presence would always be measured by your feelings. I promised, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not, you will always feel me. Those are very different promises. My child, clouds can hide the sun, but they cannot extinguish it. The ocean may become rough, but the lighthouse still stands exactly where it has always been. Fog may cover the mountain, but the mountain has not moved. Likewise, your emotions may become overwhelmed, but I have not moved. Your circumstances may become uncertain, but I remain the same. Your heart may feel weary, but my love has not weakened. Please stay with me, because there is something beautiful about the night that many people never notice. During the day, the stars are still in the sky. You simply cannot see them because the sunlight is brighter. But when darkness arrives, the stars become visible, not because they suddenly appeared, but because they had been there all along. My child, sometimes your darkest season allows you to discover parts of my faithfulness that brighter seasons never required. When life was easy, you thanked me for blessings. When life became difficult, you discovered my comfort. When everything was going well, you celebrated my provision. When everything fell apart, you learned my presence. Those lessons are different, and both are precious. My child, there are moments when I calm the storm. There are also moments when I calm my child in the middle of the storm. One changes the weather, the other changes the heart. Please don't miss that, because many people spend their entire lives asking me to remove every storm, never realizing that some of my greatest miracles happen while the storm is still raging. Imagine a child crossing a narrow bridge for the first time. The bridge sways slightly. The wind is strong. The child becomes frightened. He squeezes his father's hand as tightly as he can. Now tell me, was the child safe because the bridge stopped moving? No, he was safe because his father never let go. My child, that is your story too. You have been asking me to stop the bridge from shaking, while all along, my hand has never loosened its grip on yours, even when you could not feel it. Even when your prayers felt like they reached only the ceiling. Even when silence seemed louder than every answer you hoped to hear, I was still holding you. There were mornings when you thought you had carried yourself. You did not. There were nights when you believed you survived by your own strength. You did not. There were moments when you whispered, I can't do this anymore. Yet somehow, you took one more step, then another, then another. Do you know why? Because my strength quietly became your strength, long before you recognized it. My child, sometimes people ask, if God was with me, why did I still cry? May I gently answer, because my presence does not always remove tears. Sometimes, my presence catches every tear before it reaches the ground. There is a difference. A loving father does not always prevent every difficult experience, but he refuses to abandon his child inside it. And neither do I. My child, as it is written, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. Notice again, the promise is not, you will never enter deep waters. The promise is, I will be with you. That changes everything, because my goal has never been to make your life free from every dark valley. My goal has been to make sure you never walk through one alone. My child, perhaps the greatest lie darkness has whispered to you is not that your circumstances will never change. Perhaps its greatest lie is this: you are alone. That lie has wounded countless hearts, but today I want to replace it with truth. You have never walked one single step without me knowing exactly where your feet have been. Not one tear, not one sleepless night, not one anxious thought, not one silent prayer, not one lonely drive, not one empty room. not one broken dream. I have been there, quietly, faithfully, lovingly, even when you could not feel me. Hold on to that truth, because in the next part, I want to reveal something that most people never understand until much later. The darkest season of your life may actually become the place where your deepest faith is born, and once you see why, you may never fear the darkness in the same way again. My child, stay with me, because now we have reached the moment I have been preparing your heart for since the beginning of this message. If you remember only one truth from everything I have said today, remember this: the darkness was never proof that I abandoned you. It became the place where my light could no longer be mistaken for anything else. Please, don't rush past that. Read it again in your heart. The darkness was never proof that I left you. It became the place where my light could no longer be mistaken for anything else. My child, for so long, you have believed your greatest problem was the darkness itself. But the darkness was never your greatest enemy. The greatest danger was believing the darkness had the final word. It never has. It never will. Because I have always written endings that darkness could never imagine. Please stay with me, because I want to show you something that changes everything. Imagine walking into a room at noon. The room is filled with sunlight. A small candle sits on the table. Its flame is beautiful, but hardly noticeable. Now imagine returning to that same room after midnight. Every light has been turned off. The room is completely dark. Suddenly, that same little candle transforms the entire room. The candle did not become stronger. The darkness simply made its light impossible to ignore. My child, have you ever considered that your darkest season may be revealing my faithfulness in ways brighter seasons never could? When life was comfortable, you appreciated my blessings, but now you are beginning to discover my presence. Those are not the same. Blessings are wonderful, but my presence is greater than every blessing I could ever place in your hands, because blessings may change, circumstances may change, people may change, but my presence remains. My child, many people spend their entire lives chasing what my hand can give them, without ever discovering the beauty of simply walking beside me. Then a difficult season arrives. The distractions begin to fall away. The noise grows quiet. The things they depended on suddenly become uncertain. And for the first time, they discover that I was never merely the giver of good gifts. I was always meant to be their greatest treasure. My child, this is why some people know more about me after one difficult year than they learned during 10 comfortable years. Not because pain is better than joy, but because suffering has a way of asking questions that comfort never asks. Questions like, what truly gives my life hope? What remains when everything else disappears? Who am I when the applause stops? What can never be taken away? Those questions are painful, but they often lead people to the deepest truths they have ever discovered. Please think about Peter. The night before the cross, his world collapsed. Everything he thought he understood about me suddenly fell apart. Fear overcame courage. Confidence disappeared. He denied even knowing me. If anyone had looked at Peter that night, they would have believed his story was finished. Failure, shame, darkness, the end. But my child, that dark night did not destroy Peter. It stripped away the version of Peter who believed his own strength was enough. And only then could I build the Peter who would one day stand before thousands without fear. The darkness did not cancel his calling. It prepared him for it. My child, could it be that this season is not destroying your future either? Could it be that what feels like everything falling apart is actually everything unnecessary falling away? Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble once again. Each strike of the chisel removes another piece. To someone watching, it looks like loss. The stone grows smaller, pieces fall to the ground, dust fills the air, but the sculptor smiles, because every piece that falls away reveals more of the masterpiece hidden inside. My child, there are things I have allowed to fall away from your life, not because they were always bad, but because they were never meant to become the foundation of your identity. Some dreams, some expectations, some relationships, some plans, some versions of yourself. Losing them hurt, I know it did. But sometimes, before I can show you who you truly are, I must gently remove who you believed you had to be. That process is painful, but it is holy, because I never remove something valuable without preparing something eternal. My child, here is another truth that many people never realize. The enemy wants you to believe that darkness means defeat. I want you to understand that darkness often becomes the birthplace of deeper faith. Faith is not proven when everything makes sense. Faith is revealed when very little makes sense. Yet you still choose to trust me. Anyone can celebrate me when prayers are answered immediately, but there is something beautiful about the heart that whispers, "Lord, I still trust you," even before the answer arrives. That kind of faith cannot be manufactured. It is born in valleys, in quiet nights, in unanswered questions, in seasons where my hand seems hidden, yet my heart remains faithful. My child, please don't misunderstand me. I am not asking you to enjoy your suffering. I am not asking you to pretend the pain is easy. Even my son wept. Even he experienced sorrow. Even he cried out in anguish. Pain is real. Grief is real. Loss is real. But none of those things have the authority to define your future. Only I do. My child, here is the truth I have wanted you to discover all along. Darkness is not where your story ends. It is often where your faith stops depending on what you can see, and begins resting in who I am. That is the faith that survives every storm. That is the faith that no disappointment can steal. That is the faith that remains standing, even when the valley has not yet ended. Please remember this sentence. Carry it with you. Write it on your heart. Because one day, someone else may be walking through the same darkness you are facing now, and you will quietly tell them, "I know it feels impossible. I know the night seems endless, but don't stop walking, because the darkness is not the end. Sometimes, it is where you finally discover that God never left." My child, hold on a little longer, because there is still one beautiful truth I want to show you. In the next part, I want to reveal why this dark season will one day become one of the strongest testimonies of your entire life, and why the light waiting ahead is more beautiful because of the night you are walking through now. My child, stay with me just a little longer, because now I want to show you something that your heart has been longing to understand. You have been asking, when will this darkness finally end? It is an honest question, a weary question, a question that has echoed through countless prayers. But perhaps there is another question that deserves your attention. What is this darkness preparing me to see? Those are very different questions. One longs only for the night to end. The other begins to discover purpose even before the morning arrives. My child, have you ever watched the sky just before dawn? Not after the sun has risen, not when the birds begin singing, but those quiet moments just before first light. To someone who has never witnessed a sunrise, that hour may seem hopeless. The darkness feels unchanged. The silence feels endless. Nothing appears different, yet high above the horizon, something has already begun. The sky changes before the sun becomes visible. Colors appear before warmth is felt. Morning begins long before your eyes recognize it. My child, that is how I often work in your life. The breakthrough usually begins before you recognize it. Healing often starts before you feel different. Hope quietly awakens before circumstances change. Just because you cannot yet see the sunrise does not mean morning has failed to arrive. Please don't miss this, because many of my children give up only moments before the horizon begins to change. They mistake the darkest hour for the final hour, but the darkest hour has never been the last word. Light always has another chapter. My child, imagine a traveler walking through a mountain tunnel. The tunnel is long, cold, echoing. Every step sounds the same. Every wall looks identical. After walking for what feels like forever, the traveler begins believing the tunnel has no exit. Then something almost impossible to notice appears, a tiny change, the faintest beam of light, not enough to remove the darkness, but enough to reveal that the tunnel was never endless. My child, sometimes I do not immediately remove every shadow from your life. Instead, I first give you enough light to take the next step, not because I enjoy keeping you in uncertainty, but because faith grows one faithful step at a time, not 20 steps, not the entire journey, just the next one, and then the next, then another. That is how I have always led my children. Think of the Israelites walking through the wilderness. I did not show them the entire journey on the first day. I gave them enough for that day. Cloud by day, fire by night, daily bread, daily guidance, daily mercy. Why? Because dependence grows one day at a time. My child, sometimes you ask me for next year's answers, while I am giving today's strength. Sometimes you ask me to reveal the entire map, while I am inviting you to trust the guide. There is wisdom in that, because if I revealed every detail of your future today, you might trust the plan more than the one who created it. But I want your confidence to rest in me, not merely in knowing what happens next. Please stay with me, because I want to tell you something that may surprise you. Some of the brightest people you admire today were once convinced they would never smile again. Some of the strongest believers you know once questioned whether they could continue. Some of the kindest hearts were shaped by seasons they never would have chosen. The light they carry today was born in places they once begged me to remove. Not because suffering itself is beautiful, but because I know how to bring beauty from places that seem beyond repair. My child, have you ever seen broken ground after a forest fire? At first, everything appears ruined. Black trees, gray ash, silence. It looks lifeless, yet beneath the surface, the soil has already begun changing. Certain seeds will only open after intense heat. Life begins in the place that looked completely destroyed. My child, I am not comparing your pain to a forest. I am reminding you of something my creation has always whispered. The end of one season is often the beginning of another. What looks empty may already contain tomorrow's life. What feels broken may already be healing. What seems silent may already be growing. Please don't judge your future by today's landscape, because I have never finished a story in the middle of the chapter. My child, there is another reason I have allowed you to remain in this season longer than you expected. Not because I delight in your struggle, never, but because I am teaching you something that comfort alone could never teach. You are learning that hope is not the absence of darkness. Hope is the confidence that darkness will not last forever. There is a profound difference. One waits for perfect circumstances. The other trusts me even before circumstances become perfect. That is the kind of hope that cannot be taken away, because it is rooted in my character, not in changing situations. My child, perhaps you have noticed something inside yourself. You are not the same person who first entered this season. There is more compassion in you, more patience, more understanding of other people's pain. You notice lonely people now, You pray differently now. You listen more carefully now. You have become gentler, not because darkness was good, but because I refused to waste it. That is what I do. I redeem. I restore. I rebuild. I bring life where others see only endings. My child, one day, someone will sit across from you carrying a burden that feels impossible. They will believe no one understands. They will think their night will never end. And quietly, without pretending you have all the answers, you will tell them, I know what that darkness feels like. I walked through it too, and God never left me. That testimony will carry more hope than 1,000 easy words, because hope spoken by someone who has walked through the valley always reaches deeper than hope spoken from the mountaintop. My child, hold on to this truth. You are not simply surviving this dark season. You are being prepared to become light for someone who will one day need your story, and that is why this season, no matter how painful, will never be meaningless. Stay with me, because there is one final truth I want to place inside your heart. When this message ends, I do not want you to leave remembering the darkness. I want you to leave remembering who was walking beside you the entire time. My child, before this message comes to an end, I want you to carry one final truth with you, not just into tomorrow, but into every dark season you will ever face, because there will be days when you forget everything else I have said. There will be mornings when hope feels distant again. There will be nights when fear tries to speak louder than faith. When those moments come, remember this: the night has never had the final word. I have. My child, right now, you can only see this chapter. I already see the entire story.
You see the valley.
I see the mountain beyond it. You see the storm. I see the clear sky waiting behind the clouds. You see the tears. I already see the smile that will one day replace them. You see the question. I already know the answer. That is why I ask you to trust me, not because I expect you to understand everything, but because I already understand what you cannot yet see. My child, have you ever noticed something about the night? No matter how long it lasts, morning has never failed to arrive. Not once. Not in all of history. No one has ever awakened to discover that the sun simply decided never to rise again. Morning always comes, not because people deserve it, not because they earn it, but because it was always part of the design. My child, hope works the same way. There are moments when you cannot see it, moments when you cannot feel it, moments when you almost stop believing it still exists. Yet hope has not disappeared. It is simply approaching from a horizon your eyes cannot yet see. Please don't miss this, because many people believe hope is a feeling. It is not. Hope is a decision to trust my character, even when you cannot yet celebrate my timing. My child, think about a tapestry being woven. Imagine standing behind it. All you see are tangled threads, knots, loose ends, colors that seem to have no purpose. Nothing makes sense. You might honestly conclude that the entire work has been ruined. But then, the master weaver gently turns the tapestry around. Suddenly, the confusion becomes beauty. Every thread belongs exactly where it should. Every knot supported something greater. Every color has its purpose. My child, right now, you are standing behind the tapestry. You are judging your life by threads you cannot yet understand. I alone can see the finished masterpiece. That is why I ask you not to lose heart. Not because everything feels beautiful today, but because everything will one day make more sense than it does now. My child, there is something else I want you to know. One day, you will tell this story differently. Today you call it the darkest season of my life. One day you may call it the season where I discovered how faithful God truly is. Today you remember the pain, One day you will remember my presence inside the pain. Today you remember what you lost. One day you will remember what you gained that could never have been learned any other way, not because the suffering was good, but because I refused to let your suffering be meaningless. That is what redemption looks like. I do not always erase every wound, but I know how to transform wounds into wisdom. I know how to transform tears into compassion. I know how to transform broken places into places where my light shines most brightly. My child, there is a reason I have never asked you to pretend that darkness does not exist. Faith is not pretending. Faith is choosing to keep walking, even when the valley has not yet ended. Faith is saying, Lord, I cannot see tomorrow, but I know you already stand there. That kind of faith is precious, not because it impresses me, but because it frees your heart from the impossible burden of trying to control everything. You were never created to carry tomorrow. You were created to walk with me today, and tomorrow we will walk together again. My child, remember the shepherd we spoke about. The sheep never needed to know every turn in the valley. They only needed to remain close to the shepherd. The shepherd carried the map. The shepherd knew where the streams were. The shepherd knew where danger was hiding. The shepherd knew where the green pasture waited beyond the hills. My child, I still carry the map. You do not have to. That responsibility has never belonged to you. Your responsibility is much simpler. Stay close. Listen for my voice. Take the next step. Trust me with the next sunrise. I will take care of the horizon. Please think about that. How much of your exhaustion has come? Not from today's burdens, but from trying to carry tomorrow before it arrives. You have imagined conversations that never happened, feared outcomes that never came, grieved losses that never occurred, all while missing the grace I placed in today. My child, there is always enough grace for today. Tomorrow's grace arrives tomorrow. That is why I invite you, not into certainty, but into daily trust, because daily trust becomes lifelong peace. My child, perhaps this dark season has made you wonder whether your life still has purpose. Let me answer that with absolute certainty. Yes, your purpose has not disappeared. Your calling has not expired. Your future has not been canceled. Darkness does not erase what I have spoken over your life. It only delays what human eyes can presently see. My promises do not expire because the sky became cloudy. My faithfulness does not weaken because your heart became tired. My love does not disappear because your prayers have become quieter. I remain exactly who I have always been, yesterday, today, forever. And because I remain, your hope also remains. My child, as it is written, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Notice carefully. The promise is not that those who hope will never grow tired. The promise is that strength will be renewed, again and again and again. That is my heart toward you. Not condemnation, renewal. Not rejection, restoration. Not abandonment, presence. My child. So tonight, I do not want you to ask, when will the darkness end? Instead, ask me, Lord, help me recognize your light, even while I am still walking through the night. Because once you begin looking for my presence, you will discover something beautiful. I have been leaving traces of my faithfulness all along. In the friend who called at the right moment, in the strength you somehow found to keep going, in the unexpected peace that arrived during prayer, in the scripture that spoke directly to your heart, in the small mercy that carried you through another day. Those were never accidents. Those were reminders that I was walking beside you, every step, every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night. My child, before you leave, I want you to do something simple. Place your hand over your heart. take one slow breath and quietly say, Lord, I trust you with this night. Not because you suddenly understand everything, but because you trust the one who already does. If those are the only words you can pray today, they are enough. If your faith feels small, it is enough. If your voice trembles, it is enough. Because I have never measured your faith by how loudly you speak. I look at whether you are willing to keep walking with me, and you are. Even now, even in this season, even through these tears, my child, this dark season will not be the chapter that defines your life. It will become the chapter that reveals my faithfulness. One day, you will look back, not with bitterness, but with gratitude, not because the valley was easy, but because you will finally see that I never left your side for a single moment. And when you remember this night, you will not remember only the darkness, you will remember the shepherd who walked beside you until the morning came. If this message reached your heart today, let your prayer be simple. Write these words, Lord, I trust you through the night, not as a slogan, as a surrender, as a declaration that your faith will not be determined by what your eyes can see, but by the one who has been faithfully leading you all along. My child, the night is real, but it is not forever. The valley is deep, but it is not your home. The tears are heavy, but they will not have the final word, because I do, and I am still leading you toward the morning. Amen.